Hey there, my name is Pravus, welcome back to more Hearts of Iron 4 Darkest Hour, playing as the Empire of Japan. I'm pretty sure setting ourselves up for a major factional fight between really the Navy and the Army, if we're really being honest about it. I'm trying to fix some of this issue so that we're not going to have all this discontent. Looks like they're already considered to be favored simply by clicking this button, so this is now resolved temporarily. But I imagine it's going to become a problem later. I don't know, we're gonna find out. Let's see, Jiro Minami, our appointed leader of the Kwantung army in Manchuria, has been increasingly pushing for us to involve ourselves in the affairs of this new Mongol state on our border. Minami has spoken extensively and excitedly about the potential of a partnership with this Prince Demchongdungrub, however you say that, figure who appears to be leading this state, and this excitement is not without merit. For a relatively minimal investment, it would be trivial to bring this small nation into the fold, as it were, and use their territory as a staging ground for further operations into China. Is it one of these guys in this Mongolian stuff? No. I don't know who this prince is, and if I need to be aware of any of this. Oh, it's this guy right here. Ah, okay, in the local autonomy political affair committee. So maybe there's a way for us to just steal this outright. Okay, all right. Given the numerous benefits that this relationship might have, we have given the go-ahead for Minami to publicly announce his and the Kwantung's army support for this fledgling state. Hopefully it leads to a more formalized agreement of mutual aid. See, one of the problems I'm having with the mod right now, although as cool as this is, I feel like I'm very out of control as far as a lot of things that are happening. Right, and a lot of vanilla HoI4, like, you feel like you're actively directing a lot of stuff, and right now I feel like I'm just kind of watching things happen. It's not necessarily a problem, it depends on what the payoff is going to be, but I don't know. I'm very wary of creating YouTube content where it feels like nothing is happening. That's why there's a lot more jump cuts in the last couple of videos. I want to get into some conflicts, I want to see us, like, actually making some progress towards some goal. But I don't yet know what that goal is, you know? That's sort of the problem. I'm not gonna be going for the anti-tank weapons over here, by the way. I will absolutely be using the 100% bonus to get these 1939 guns really early if possible. So that we're done there for infantry equipment, at least for a little while. And there's some upgrades for our heavy equipment. Excellent. All right, what else we wanna do in 1935? We could work towards special forces early, but I don't think that's worth it. Could get upgrades to recon, I don't think we want to do that. Could learn about anti-tank. I don't feel like we're gonna be fighting people that use tanks for a while, so I'm not sure that I really care about that much. Maybe I do a little bit though. Do you want to get ahead of time on some planes? That might make some sense. Yeah, what if we went for like an early upgrade to some fighters? Maybe, well, let's see, this is attack aircraft or CAS? These will be tactical bombers, these are heavy fighters. What's the difference here then? These are just other bigger bombers. Got it. So naval bombers and stuff. Okay. Let's go for the production efficiency. Continue focusing on the economy for a bit. But if I can go ahead of time on an Air Force, I feel like that's still a good choice, regardless of whether this is a modded version of the game or not. Like, it's kind of hard to go wrong, you know what I mean? Alrighty, let's see. Air experience for naval aircraft, blah, blah, blah. We're not gonna worry about that right now. Support artillery and motorized, blah, blah, blah. Still have absolutely no idea what to do with myself. I'm going to start training up some extra units. I'm not sure if I should do this, because obviously the larger my military is, the more expensive it becomes, right? But I've been building all these extra civilian factories for a reason. I could try raising up some taxation if I need to later. We're almost at 1936, which will be the start of vanilla HoI4, and within a year or two after that, we'll have the Marco Polo Bridge incident and all that stuff, which is going to lead to some more direct conflict with China. So I feel like having a few extra units is a good idea, even though I'm probably getting the timing completely wrong. I'm definitely also going to research oil distillation, so we'll be able to start making some synthetic refineries and produce a bit of fuel and oil for ourselves, because at some point, obviously historically based, one of the reasons Japan ended up attacking the United States around Pearl Harbor was because of all the oil embargoes that the US started pushing against the country before they were officially at war. So, in order to try and control the timing of that and make sure my economy and my military does not come grinding to a halt, it would probably make some sense to try to pick up a bit of extra oil production on my own. Fleet was caught in some foul weather that is killing my political power. However, we do get some cost reductions for the base strikes, so that's a nice thing, I guess. We could make them dominant if we do this. Unlocks the Maru Kaikaku decision. What is that? What is that something I would want? I don't know. See, this is where I get really frustrated because I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing in order to accomplish my goals. I guess I'm gonna go for the fighter ahead of time research bonus. It's never gonna be a bad thing. At the end of the day, this is still a game about war. So, sure, we'll do that. Upgrade our guns and stuff. We're technologically on par with where I should be. I do feel good about that, at least. But I feel like I'm just running around with no clue what to do. Clashes at Lake Kanka. Okay, where is that and why should I care? A disgraced genius. There's a lot going on over here. And yet, Masaki knew this is the end of his career. Someone had to take the fall for allowing the coup to have progressed as far as it did, and it would end up being him. He felt very weary. Perhaps his climb to the top was at an end. I tender my resignation. There goes the Kadoha faction by another 10%. So now they're down to only 0.25%. Like, I'm just saying, it shouldn't take us long to get rid of these guys. So let's try expanding the police one more time. That should bring them down to 0. But I don't know if that's considered to be the end of it. It might be, though. It's as good as a guess as I can possibly give you at this point. I'm gonna do a relatively short focus here, because in just a bit, we'll be able to do the common goal with different methods. In August of 1935, that is just a week away, so I don't mind taking a really short focus. We'll be able to jump on that a little bit sooner. Not too sure what to expect out of that. Meeting between Minami and the guy who was in charge over here. As relations between China and Japan grow ever more hostile, the threat of war between the two powers has become increasingly concern for many of the peoples of East Asia, seemingly none more so than for Prince Demchonggongrob of Inner Mongolia. This is for good reason, too. Inner Mongolia struggles in a precarious situation on the outskirts of China. Its very existence a point of contention for Nanjing, which claims the area for its own. The prince is the foremost leader of the province. He is going to meet with us. He knows that if only the two powers ever come to blows and Japan loses, it would leave behind only a China hostile to Inner Mongolia, so it's in his best interest to be on our side. We're going to aid them, send them some small arms. Old ones go first. Yes. Take my outdated crap guns. Oh, okay, hang on. They just changed color, which means they're independent, and they are now gonna be one of my little puppet states. Okay, we got ourselves an imperial subject, ladies and gentlemen. China's a little bit peeved about this. Sending military forces into Inner Mongolia was never going to be a discussion without repercussions, and it seems the repercussions we feared are starting to come into view. The Chinese have moved military units into Shaanxi, a region adjacent to our allies in the Mongol military government, where they prepared a future military operations against us. China, of course, has been preparing for war with us for several years now, but we had hoped to avoid provoking the Chinese into stationing significant numbers of soldiers in the mountainous region where dislodging them could prove extremely difficult. Reconnaissance units stationed near the border have reported sighting at least a few thousand Chinese soldiers, with more arriving every day. Decided that they must remove some Chinese troops, and some members suggest a sufficient force engaging in small border conflicts might be enough to disperse them. Alright, so we are sending even more stuff to the Shaanxi clique, old ones again going first to these guys so that they can get involved in a border conflict. Alright, restoration of military discipline. The influence of the Kadoha are going to go down even further. We may have avoided a looming crisis this week as the radicals have gone to trial for the coup. Alright, with Kadoha attempts to minimize the connection between themselves and the plotters falling on deaf ears, they are being undermined. That's down to 5%. They're still here, but it's 0%. I don't understand why these guys are allowed to reduce my political power if they have 0% remaining. Come on. No one supports them. Literally no one. The Brave Man's Song. A man arrived in downtown Tokyo early in the morning. He'd always enjoyed the city if he was more accustomed to the rural stuff. He had no time to enjoy such things today. He arrived at his destination, a building for the government. Let's see. It wasn't just what he was carrying, though he felt strangely heavy, but a sense of dread. It was a warning, as if he shouldn't be doing this. Security was lax as he walked in, just a few weary desk jockeys languishing under an endless pile of paperwork and some bored-looking guards off to the side. When he asked the way to the Nagata's office, they pointed down the hall. He was so close, and before the blade came down, he was an assassin. Got it. All right, a sword. Yep. A few seconds is all it takes, so something horrible just happened. and the Dark Genius. When news of the attempted coup had come to light in the Japanese Diet, there had been fierce confusion and then outrage. How could the Kadoha, even an isolated cell of that faction, consider overthrowing the government? Had they no love for their country? Yet none were more confused or more outraged than the Kadoha themselves. Many within the faction believed the cadet Sato, the former conspirator who informed authorities of the plot, had been a spy for Captain Tsuji all along, and the affair was a Tosaiha scheme to discredit Inspector General of the Military Education. With interfactional tensions high at the moment, someone escalated the crisis by murdering Nagata in his office. He was an advocate preparing both the military and civilian economy for total war. So they now hang by a thread. They're completely gone. I didn't have to spend my political power reducing the influence of these guys at all, it turns out. This is completely unnecessary. But all right, fine. I wasted a lot of political power getting these down to 0 with absolutely no benefit. Turns out the events were going to take care of that for me. Anyway, now we can do the peak's inevitable slope. Finally, you move on with this, and we'll be able to get rid of that faction entirely. This is going to end up giving me a lot of extra army experience, plus some division organization. That's going to be great, and the Tosaiha are going to be a lot happier, or rather have more influence. I don't know about happy. So what could I do to make you guys happier? Because the more influential this faction is, the more I have to be careful about them. We could try to make other factions more powerful instead, and that might still be one way to go. I don't know. Deal for the greater good. I still wonder what this does. I'm gonna pick it up just because I want to know. Political power or decline. What does this mean? What is a deal for the greater good? What does it do? It gets me my political power back, apparently. Fine, it's done. What happened? Not a clue. One's act, one's profit. Remove these guys from the faction list. Italy declares war on Ethiopia in 1935. Okay. The North Chahar incident earlier this week, 4 Japanese soldiers entered the Chengpai district of Chahar province north of the Great Wall on a journey to Kalgan and Paiping. They were detained because they did not have required travel permits from the provincial governments. The soldiers were then taken to the headquarters, who were asked the general in command for instructions. They were released and allowed to continue on their journey, but with a warning that appropriate permits must be obtained in the future. A complaint was made to the Japanese, who then pointed rifles at them and detained them for some hours at divisional headquarters, thus insulting the Japanese army. So, okay, apparently either someone lied and they were detained at gunpoint or not, I don't know. But regardless, it's leading to a lot of extra escalation of, stuff. So now we have the owner and controller of East Hebei. So this just happened. I took over this territory now. We are just a stone's throw away from Beijing, which is interesting. Deep in the darkness of the Manchurian forests, amid the silent and eloquent flow of a nearby creek, a force of about 9 Japanese and 32 Manchurian soldiers engaged in setting up an outpost 20 kilometers north of Suifenho in Manchuria territory. They plan to set up camp there to monitor the area were not for sudden disturbances by hidden Soviet force waiting for the time to strike. Oh, goody! So now we have Soviet border skirmishes. Yeah. That's going to be a major threat for us without a doubt. I really do not love the idea of having to fight around Siberia as well. When the time comes to fight against... Hello, this changed. When the time comes to fight against China, I'm going to want to move fast and hard to take this over so I can establish my greater East Asian co-prosperity sphere in order to deal with the Soviets as soon as the Germans get involved. That would be the ideal situation. These guys are no longer the Northeastern Army. They are the Hebei Chahar Political Council. Alright, good for you. I guess you got some sort of an upgrade. Anyway, that faction is now gone. Nothing to do there. Let's go ahead and move on with the common goals and different methods and see what this whole divine fork in the road thing is going to be. With our recent results of the Leighton Report and our subsequent exodus from the League of Nations, our position has become a tenuous one. Our actions in Manchuria, though it led to a great gain for our empire, has now opened ourselves to an inevitable border contact with both China and the Soviet Union. Considering the reaction the United States had to our actions, we must also be wary of Western interventions should we choose to push our gains further into either China or the USSR. The Foreign Ministry must navigate cautiously with our diplomatic agendas to decide how we should proceed in this situation. Currently, there are 3 potential candidates for our foreign efforts with each their own diplomatic agendas: Hirota, Shirihara, and Matsuoka. Okay, so the Great Compromiser will be our next event. Now, the reason I think this matters, if you take a look down over here, it's going to lead to one of 3 different events. There are going to be a couple of different alternate histories. We can draw close to the Axis, but antagonize the West. We can get close to China and the West, or we can draw closer to China and antagonize the Soviets. I don't want to antagonize the West. I feel like that is a death sentence this early in the game, and antagonizing the Soviets is kind of already the thing. So going down a historical path over here with Hirota might make some sense. His agenda that prioritizes against communism spreading throughout East Asia, his proposal is to cease the continued antagonization against China in an effort to cooperate with the Chinese government and to form a bloc against the continual communist influence in East Asia. He believes that China is a crucial part of East Asian stability and that, if necessary, Japan should intervene in preserving said stability as an effort against the expansion of the Soviet Union. Now, see, okay, that's interesting, because that's not what I expected. We've been trying to be antagonistic against the Chinese for a reason. I'm curious, did I mess something up and I was supposed to allow for a coup in order to become a more militaristic fascist empire? And instead I'm democratic and therefore more moderate and therefore I'm not as antagonistic against China? I don't know. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I thought I followed the historical path, so I'm assuming not, but I'm not sure how this all ties together yet. Anyway, Shidahara is a peaceful in reconciliation. He wants to basically make nice with everybody. Forget that. I'm here for war, dang it! I'm playing as Japan, and I'm here for war and conquest and taking over all of China. There's a lot of manpower to be exploited there that I can use against all of Eastern Asia. I want to turn this entire area into one giant Japanese sphere, okay? That is the long-term goal if I can find a way to make that work. And this guy over here thinks that we should join up in the Axis with Germany and Italy, which I'm assuming is going to lead to me not creating a great East Asian co-prosperity sphere, and instead being a just like direct member of the Axis. Which, I mean, there's something to be said about that. That would bring the Germans in on, let's say, China and stuff, but I don't know. I still think I want to follow down a historical path here. Obviously, that didn't turn out so great for Japan, you know, in the very long run, but yeah, with some good applications, maybe we can find a way to turn things around and make it a little bit better. All right, so with this, who do we go with? We said we were going to go with Hirota Koki, so we're going to go with his 3 principles. I assume that's going to bypass once we are done with this. I'm surprised that we still even have to sit here for another 10 days. I feel like once you click that button, it basically should be over, but like, okay. Anyways, when do we get out of the Great Depression? Is that ever going to happen for us? I have no idea. Military Ascendant, yes. Divided Command System, how do we get rid of that? Disturbance at Buir Lake. Let's see, Manchurian Army engaged in reconnaissance. Mongolian force engaged against us. Regardless, Mongolians attacked but were repulsed at the cost of 3 Manchurian deaths. Lots of little border skirmishes. That's all that's been happening so far, though. Lots of little border skirmishes. So it does not bypass with this, it just lets us choose this one next. Kind of a weird way of doing things. Either if I make the decision, just bypass directly and start the next event, or let me make my decision later on which one of the 3 I want to go for. Why the event has to be what locks you in, I really don't think I know. The Suiyuan campaign, more proxy fighting, blah 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 with Mongolia stuff, another border war begins. Over here this time against the Shangxi clique. Okay. And also, that is Mao Zedong. Hello, Chinese Soviet Republic. Looks like these guys got kicked out over here and they have relocated here. Now, these are the borders that I am more familiar with. Okay, so that is now done. Still can't move on down over here. Still can't do anything over here. That means we need to continue working toward, let's say, the True Guardians of Nippon, or we could go for some bonuses for fighters. Let's go for some more research bonuses for fighters. I need to get some upgrades for not only CAS, but also for some carrier fighters, because I'm going to be using carriers aggressively. Looks like a lot of different factions are going to be losing opinion of me because of the 3 principles. Yeah, the more militaristic you are, the less you like me. Got it. I'm going to go ahead and swap out to a 2-year mandatory service to double up on my recruitable population. Yes, training time's bad, but I want to know what's going to happen there. There's been an official response to Hirota's 3 principles. Their attitude is one of acceptance. They want to put our bad relations behind us. At least we tried. Yeah, and it seems to have worked. What do you mean, at least we tried? Again, this doesn't... Something about this doesn't feel right. I just don't know. I'm trying to follow the historical path. But I don't feel like I'm getting what I want here. Where's my Marco Polo Bridge incident? I almost feel like we were supposed to get some sort of a coup, tag switch, and get a whole new national focus tree here. But I really have no idea. Looks like the Soviets have started up a new set of events with us. Okay, so there's actually a balance of power mechanic. So we can start spending command power to try and do things here, starting some border skirmishes, huh? Okay. Yeah. Is there any reason not to just go ahead and do almost all of this? All right, let's start by getting some intel and enlisting some aid and stuff, and then maybe we can do some assaults or something. I don't know. Something's changed with the German Reich over here, by the way. They got a new flag, and they got some new leaders. Yep, he is a Führer, okay. So Mr. Mustache Man has taken over control over there, which makes a whole lot of sense. Still looking like most of the same stuff going on over there. Roosevelt is in charge up there. That all makes sense. We have as far as the King Edward VIII. Yep, that's all making sense. Stanley Baldwin is going to be the Prime Minister. All right. So everything's looking fairly normal in the rest of the world. What is the February 26th event? What is that thing going to be? Because I feel like this is where things are going to suddenly change for us. Like, if at all. Hold on, hang on. Somebody, the Xinjiang clique, and contacts provided useful information. We get some more support and some experience. Yay, question mark, I guess. Did not change the balance. Oh, it did change the balance of power in my favor. Okay. Oh, there's the event. Okay, this is, I think, where things are going to change. This, I think, is where things are going to change for us. And there goes Ethiopia in February 1936. How could this be happening? Asked Shiro Nonaka. To no one in particular. It was a fair enough question. For someone who believed his group had divine will of the Emperor behind them, victory should have been imminent, and yet here he stood in the Tokyo Metropolitan Police headquarters about to be stormed by the army. He glanced out the window to the army regiments outside and then to the pistol on his side. He unholstered it and gazed at the inscriptions on its side. The plan had started so well. He and a few other IJA officers had mobilized over 1,000 other young army soldiers to storm several important administrative centers in Tokyo. They assassinated some of the most prominent enemies of the Kokutai, then submitted their demands, the dismissal of several officers in opposition to their goals, and appointments of a new cabinet led by Mazaki. The rest would have been decided by the Emperor once he recognized the righteousness of their goals. They had failed, though. Nonaka slammed his fists against the wall in anger. They never gained any support from the Emperor, nor did they gain any concessions. 3 days had passed, and their positions had only weakened in that time. At that very moment, thousands upon thousands of soldiers stood at their doorstep ready to attack their position. They would almost certainly be overrun, and he would likely be put before a firing squad, unless he gave a final glance at the pistol before closing his eyes and putting the barrel to the side of his head. He dies. Okay, so my prime minister is dead, I guess, apparently, or has been vacated in some way or another. The scattered Sakura, Saionji Kimochi sat back and watched from afar as men cleared out the cabinets and desks about the government building. It was a sobering moment as he watched those government men take away any trace of those who had come before. It was as if the Kodaha faction had been wiped from the face of the earth, its members either dead or in prison. Not that Sionji had ever supported the group, in fact he had spent a great deal of time opposing their aims. However, to imagine that all of this could have occurred would have been inconceivable to the man a few years ago. Regardless, he reflected life moves on. Japan's political scene was in total disarray and he was in a position to take advantage of this chaos. While the Tosaya faction is now firmly in control in the government, individual factions within the Tosaya are all vying for power in his new political dynamic. This disorganized state of affairs was only compounded by the resignation of the Okada cabinet, leaving another big power vacuum open that could only wait for so long. The elder statesman rose from his seat, watching the building across the way, and started on the road back down toward into Tokyo. The political landscape had indeed shifted, and he had every intention of taking advantage of it. The Tosaya faction would be brought into line, and with it, Saionji would mold a new Japan. What on earth? All right, so, that's all happened. We definitely now need to move down this faction right here, the Shadow of 2.26. And that's going to reduce stability. The faction is already gone, so I don't know why this matters. What is the point of having two things that remove the Kodaha and Kodoha from our faction list? Out of curiosity. Is there a good reason for that? Let me just double check that nothing's changed there. Yeah, no, they haven't. I don't know, but it seems like our government got overthrown, which is weird given how stable everything appeared to be. Approaching the prince. Saionji Kinmochi could not believe he was hearing his former apprentice. He was giving Kono the opportunity of a lifetime, ascension to the prime ministership of Japan, one of the most powerful positions, and yet he was refusing. You understand what I'm offering you here, asked the elder statesman. You would have near unlimited legislative control. I'm sorry, the political situation is too unstable right now. A failure at this junction could kill my political career. As flattered as I am, I cannot accept the position. The two had been talking for hours. He had molded the boy into a fine young man. Admittedly, the two had grown distant since he went to university, but he still trusted him. Fine, if Kono wouldn't do it, he had to get someone else. Get me Koki Hirota. Okay. I feel like I recognize some of these names here, so this is getting interesting. I'm gonna start building up some military factories, but we'll also just continue sprinkling in a few more of the civilians here and there. But we do want to start militarizing a bit more, I think. Yeah, things are definitely changing underneath me a lot all of a sudden. I'm relieved, honestly, because I'm like, I don't think I was supposed to have this moderate of a government. Pretty sure. And yet, something was going on. Manchurian battalion arrives. Get some manpower. Nice. Most important thing. How are we doing against the Soviets? Because I got multiple things I need to worry about over here. Balance of power is not looking great for me. Okay. We could... There's a 50% chance that their resistance crumbles if we do this. I guess we just have to keep trying to see what's going to happen with the border clash. Diplomat in reserve. I hereby inaugurate Koki Hirota as the prime minister. Clap to the rest of the group. Okay, as Hirota wrapped up his speech, the Dai began to clap one last applause. He could only watch the man as he stepped down from the podium and began to shake hands. Godspeed. All right, we have a new prime minister. This guy over here, improved relations. Cool. Something else just changed. The rivalries of war has gone back to neutral. Okay. And that's it. All right, well, we are back in 1936, so we should start seeing a lot of very familiar things happening in the game now. Now is the normal build-up. There's the Berlin Olympics, okay. So we need to start building up our military and get ready, because despite our best efforts to be peaceful, I think we're gonna be very soon going to war against China. Let's go ahead and do the Shadow of 226. And start working toward a more militaristic government. Economic New Order, a deal with the reform bureaucrats. Haku Ichiyu? Yeah, New Order in the East. The National Defense State. I'm looking for anything here as far as creating our own faction. I don't see that here, though. Nonetheless, I imagine this is all going to lead to some really important stuff for us. OBK, I think this is good enough for us to end the video here, though. Again, I have no idea how long or how short some of these things are. I just feel like it's a good time, so that's kind of what I'm going for. Let's pick up the radar for good measure, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If so, I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure you hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.